Coming up this Friday on the all-new Retrograde video.
Thunderbirds are go.
Kids were writing in saying that they were almost in love with these characters. You know, it's almost like kids kind of forget that they're puppets.
Absolutely. This is what was so extraordinary, and I did think that was a bit bizarre, actually.
A brand new television series is about to be filmed. The completed puppets, perfect down to the smallest detail, are handed to the expert puppeteers who will bring them to life on the screen.
You have this new book coming out later this year, Growing Up with Thunderbirds.
They're asking me about, what was it like being there? And I thought it would be an interesting read for somebody, because I've got some very, insightful and very personal insights into the whole experience where, I was the only kid really to see everything coming to life. They'd been to NASA. They visited NASA to get some insight and to investigate space, and they had to sign the Official Secrets Act because they weren't allowed to talk about it.
Hello and welcome to the first ever episode of Retrograde Video, the show that dives into the world of everything classic and everything retro. Of course, this week, the first week, we'll be talking to Dee Anderson. I'm sure you're familiar with the surname. The daughter of Sylvia and stepdaughter to Gerry Anderson. She talks all about her time growing up with them, visiting the warehouse, everything that is kind of around this time of, particularly of Thunderbirds. We'll be getting into that. And of course, this is a new channel, so if you like what we're doing here, do like and subscribe. Follow us for new stuff that's going to be coming around the corner. We've got some real interesting stuff coming up around this whole thing. We do games, movies, TV shows. There's no limits, right? But for now, I'm going to hand you over to Dee Anderson. Thank you so much for joining me. Of course, you have this new book coming out later this year, Growing Up with Thunderbirds. Of course, it's also 60 years of Thunderbirds as well.
Yeah, it is.
Crazy. But have you been kind of working on this for a while? Is this something that, you've wanted to do for a long time?
Well, kind of. It's very, very weird, actually, because I suddenly had the idea about Growing Up with Thunderbirds because people were suddenly asking me, maybe 10 or 20 years ago, they weren't asking so much but now it was like, because it's quite a long time ago, they're asking me about, what was it like being there? And I thought it would be an interesting read for somebody because I've got some very, insightful and very personal insights into the whole experience where, I was the only kid really to see everything coming to life and the creation of the whole sort of puppet industry and empire. I've actually written it with somebody in collaboration with somebody called Natalie Ogle, who's been amazing. And because you just need somebody to bounce off to actually get, all these sort of memory thingies going, because otherwise you don't, suddenly you'll remember something bizarre. And so we've got some really great little kind of secrets, actually, behind the scenes facts that people just don't know. And I'd kind of buried and forgotten, and suddenly they all came sort of flooding back. So it's been an interesting time. And of course, I'm starting my tour on Monday, on the 12th of May at the Phoenix Arts Club near Leicester Square. And we go on tour. We're hoping to come near you, actually, but the dates are coming in all the time. We're in Leeds at the end of the end of June, I think it is. Anyway, it's all on my website, deeanderson.co.uk. I'm not giving it a plug, but I am.
Go for it.
And so yeah. Actually, if you look at, and you can also pre-order the book. Might as well go the whole hog now.
Absolutely, go for it.
And the link is on my website as well, deeanderson.co.uk, and it's signed copies in limited edition copy. Be a great collector's piece, and so the paperback is coming out later in the year, but this one you can order now.
Mm. Um, of course, you mentioned there that you have this unique perspective. Um, when was this moment where, because obviously for you, this would have been your normal.
It
So
was.
when was this? When did you realize as a kid, like, actually, this is like far from normal. This is
Far
quite
from not
unique,
normal.
quite
Yeah.
special.
I think it was Thunderbirds because I was a little bit older then. And I think
Mm.
before that, I kind of didn't really know what was going on. And didn't, you know, how you don't really care what your parents are doing, apart from as long as you're all right, as a kid.
Yeah.
But I think it was a gradual thing. I can't think there was a light bulb moment, except perhaps when I saw them on telly and I was
Mm.
sitting there with friends and they said to watch and all my friends were like, "Oh my God, that's Mr. and Mrs. Anderson." And suddenly I was thinking, why are they going so, ballistic about my parents being on telly? And then I kind of got it that they were suddenly propelled into this sort of world of showbiz, really.
Mm.
Whereas before they'd been filmmakers, creators working through the night, and they took their work very seriously. Like they produced the puppet series like they were big sort of blockbuster movies.
Mm.
Which were this I think this is why they're so unique and futuristic.
Mm. 'Cause I mean, I was going to say, like, there's nothing quite like the works that they did. I mean, there's nothing today like it. It's very unique.
Yeah.
How did that, from your perspective and what you can recall, how did that partnership work? Did Gerry go and do one thing and Sylvie go and do another, or was it very kind of close?
Well, they had different skill sets. I mean, my mother
Mm.
was the writer in the family. And very much so, she was the creative one. I mean, of course, Gerry had been an editor before, so he, of
Mm.
course, was creative in a different way. But he was very much the hardware, the technology, the cutting edge sort of, all of the explosions and the danger. And she was the heart and soul. So she created the characters and brought them to life, not just by voicing them, but by getting to the nitty gritty, like building the characters, how they
Mm.
felt, what they had for breakfast, that sort of thing. And I think that really the combination of the two was magical. And they worked very hard. There were
Mm.
times when they didn't think they'd survive as filmmakers because they didn't have any money. And then, the universe rescued them at the last minute. And it was fascinating when I look back, and they had a magnificent team behind them as well. So the two of them were at the helm, but all these people were, and it was like a big family.
Mm. Um, Obviously they did a lot of this in Slough in a big building. I mean, can
Yeah.
you did you go there
Oh
often?
yeah, absolutely. I would be picked up from school, driven there, and I remember it really well. All I do remember is the Mars bar factory was next door, and we used to get free Mars bars. So that to me is whenever I look at a Mars bar or smell a Mars bar, I think, oh God, yeah, it takes me back. And because it was so strong, that smell. So
Mm.
they had to give them loads of Mars bars because otherwise they'd have complained. But that's what really, smells bring back memories, don't
Yeah.
they? And images do. But my mother had always dreamed of Hollywood. She had an aspiration of going to Hollywood and being a movie star because she loved Hollywood movies and wanted to be an actress.
Mm.
But she ended up going to university at a time where a lot of women, just got married and
Mm.
and did the cooking and cleaning. But she was a bit of a go-getter and went to university. But she had this thing about Hollywood, and she always said to me, I almost made it, but it was on the Slough Trading Estate, you know, because the studio was there in a little cul-de-sac next to the Mars bar factory. So it was slightly different from Hollywood, but she still ended up running a studio, which is what
This
she
is
wanted to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's like she brought a slice of that to Slough,
She
It's
did. She did. Absolutely. So it was both really an equal partnership, I would say.
Mm.
Both brilliant. And I do remember the the meal times conversations were like, I remember one very kind of in-depth one about lip sync. And I was thinking at the time, God, my dad is so clever to invent it. And I think I told him at the time. And then another time would be about what colour wig a character was going to wear, or what sort of dress. I used to go a lot with her to Dickinson Jones or Liberties to choose the fabric, and stuff like that. So, yeah, all of those things I can remember vividly.
As well as looking true to life, these puppets of tomorrow can talk like human beings as well. A magnet fixed to the back of the head receives electric impulses which move the lips in perfect time to the words they speak. A team of nearly 100 technicians, cameramen and artists are kept busy producing a different 60-minute film every week. And now all is ready. The director has a final check and the cameras roll.
I recall reading somewhere that kids were writing in saying that they were almost in love with these characters, like a Lady Penelope or a Virgil or a Scott. It's almost like it's kids kind of forget that they're puppets.
Absolutely. This is what was so extraordinary. And I did think that was a bit bizarre, actually. Reading the letters, I remember thinking, do they not know? Because I'd see them all kind of with arms and legs everywhere. But yeah, and we was kind of forced to watch. My parents, as you say, you've got to watch this. But I'm glad, really, because actually I got really absorbed in the storytelling and with the characters, and so you do forget that they're not real people. It's the strength of the storylines as well.
I mean, you mentioned there the storylines. I mean, you were saying there that Sylvia was kind of the predominant one. Did she just write this at home? Did she?
They wrote everything together.
Yeah.
They wrote everything together. But I think the heart of the programs was her. But I can't take it away from my dad, because he was a genius in terms of, the futuristic look of the vehicles. I think they're better than some of the programs that came after that. 2001. I think Thunderbirds vehicles, for instance, I think they'd reached a point. They'd been to NASA. They visited NASA to get some insight and to investigate space, and they had to sign the Official Secrets Act because they weren't allowed to talk about it. And they came back and, they did a lot of research. They worked really, really hard. So it didn't sort of magic it by itself. But I think, as I said, the combination of the two was the thing that really, was why it was so brilliant. All of the series, everyone, Fireball, even going back to Four Feather Falls, and they learnt from each one, and they got better and better at it.
Speaking of finding things from the past, I recently saw that, wasn't it just last year that somebody had found never before seen footage in their shed?
Yeah.
How did, when you heard about that, how did that kind of happen? What was your thoughts?
Well, I know the guy who actually got it, or was given to him, Steve LeRiviere, and he's having it restored now. It was somebody who'd edited the program 60 years ago, and he just put it in a shed. It was still okay, hadn't got damp or anything. And I heard one of the first recordings of my mother doing a voiceover on it. It was quite spooky, but these things keep popping up. And it's brilliant, because you just never know what people are going to come up with next, what they're going to find. But also, Thunderbirds was very big at the time in the 60s when, the Beatles, Mary Quant, Twiggy, and Thunderbirds, it was like that. So it was a sort of a strange but amazing time. And I do think I was very lucky to be there, to be that kid.
Obviously we're here for Thunderbirds, but I feel we can't not mention a bit of Captain Scarlet while we're here. One of my personal favourites.
I knew you were going to say Right.
But obviously at the time,
Mm.
this is post Thunderbirds.
Yes.
Time I was surprised when I look back at this that it wasn't initially received as well. Why do you
No,
think that was?
I think it was ahead of its time in a very dark way.
Yeah.
It
It was
was
a bit darker
darker.
than anything else, wasn't it?
Yeah. And I think they took a risk on that. And I think that's why the timing of it wasn't as perfect as the others. I think they
Mm,
kind of took a step into the unknown. And but having said that, that also has lasted a long, long time
oh yeah.
with people saying, like yourself,
Mm,
younger people saying they loved it and still love it. So although it wasn't like as big as Thunderbirds and some of the and Stingray and Supercar, I think Captain Scarlet now would be
mm,
relevant with all the darkness that's going on in the world, you know, and that
mm,
fantasy. And of course, you've got the angels,
mm.
female pilots. That was unheard of. People were going, "What, women flying planes? You must be joking."
Captain Scarlet is in trouble.
It's a trap. He's a Mr. Ron replacement.
Everyone will die.
Captain Scarlet.
Calling all Spectrum agents. SIG for Kellogg's Sugar Smacks.
Those honey sweet puffs of wheat give you plenty of energy, fast. And when you're up against the Misterons, you need all the energy you can get.
That's why all Spectrum agents eat Sugar Smacks for breakfast.
Repeat, all Spectrum agents. SIG for Kellogg's Sugar Smacks.
I mean, looking at all of these creations, I mean, what do you feel it is about Thunderbirds in particular? I mean, I think every time I think of, Gerry Anderson and everybody else involved, I immediately do think of Thunderbirds. What do you think it is about this one in particular that's making it the one that people go to?
So I think they'd built up to it, and I think they'd got very sophisticated with the characters and the special effects, and and I think they looked much more sort of. They knew about movements and eyes, and they had 5 different heads for different expressions. I remember that, but I think they'd got to a point where they knew what they were doing, and I think there was a combination of things. I think the music really added to it. Barry Gray music. I think the characters were very, very sophisticated by that time. I mean, you did actually feel that these puppets were alive, and I think the technology was amazing. I think it's a combination of those things that so intricately designed. The explosions and the special effects, that was Derek Meddings. They were incredible. I mean, you didn't just sort of go, oh, when it exploded, you ducked, because they were amazing. You'd never seen anything like that before on a kids program. And of course, Lady Penelope being female, again, it was a bit sort of on the edge, and people were like sitting up and going, wow, what was that? And they had to see more. And, it was that rescue thing about you really believed that 5 brothers could save the world in less than half an hour.
Yes.
So it was all of those things. I think it's a combination of things. I think it was the timing of it, the ingenuity of it, the puppetry, the fact that they'd sort of spent so much time, like the lip sync, or building the character and having an iconic character like Lady P, with her mink coat, which was real, by the way.
No.
I hate to say, just don't shoot me. Don't shoot the messenger. It was, that, I think it was that. I think, and the music really was so magnificent.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
Barry Gray.
I can remember because they did I remember they did it was like ITV. They did a load of reruns kind of when I was growing up around kind of I think it was like late 90s, early 2000s.
Yes.
It had this big kind of resurgence.
Again, yeah.
Again. And, it feels that every so many years there is this kind of resurgence happening. I mean, I recall a few years ago, there was the kind of the more animated version.
Yeah.
That came back again.
And the movie,
Yeah, and the film. I mean, I
That's
do. I
right.
think maybe with it being set in the future, maybe it just has that timelessness.
Maybe. I don't know. Yeah, I think because I think it was, as I said, the vehicles were so sophisticated, they were so intricate. You know, the characters were so kind of everyone had a favorite character in Thunderbirds. If it, it was either Jeff Tracy or Scott or Virgil or Lady Penelope, and I think by that time they had a lot of depth. They kind of fine tuned the way they worked on everything as well. Um, so yeah, it's I don't know why, but that's my theory. But I'm sure it was. I'm sure it was just a little bit of magic, actually,
There is something there,
unexplained.
I think if you can take a show from the 60s and put it in the 2000s and kids still resonate with it, there's something special, isn't there?
Yeah,
There's an
has
X
to be.
factor.
Has to be.
I mean, obviously you had such amazing parents. I mean, was there anything that you took from them and kind of brought that into your own career? Was there any advice or maybe something that you noticed?
Um, well, I guess never giving up. Keep just keeping going. I think that was the main thing. And don't be afraid to follow your dreams, your heart, your passion. And sometimes, we've all had dips in the career. I mean, I've done a lot of work as an actor and a singer, and West End shows, etc. Done a lot of television, and over the years, and I've had a family where I took a break to have a family, but I just, I love performing and I love singing. It doesn't really matter where or how much I get paid or whether I'm famous. It's just about fulfilling your soul, really. It's not selling your soul. And sometimes you have to do things that you don't want to do if to make a buck. But as long as you keep your eye on the main thing, I think I would encourage everyone just to keep going. The resilience, I think, is really important because it's so easy to give up in this industry. And it's of course the industry's changed a lot, and I think everyone has to be open to change and not look back and go, oh, in my day it was this, because everything's different and each generation does that. My parents would say, oh God, the Rolling Stones, my God, and my mum actually ended up interviewing the Rolling Stones in the 70s. But they would be horrified when Mick Jagger came on, and so we've got that. We do that, don't we, as parents, or looking back. And I think it's very important that we change with the times. Otherwise, you just don't evolve. You don't grow as a person, especially as an artist.
I mean, obviously you mentioned there that you do some music.
Mhm.
I recall the family's quite a musical family as well, aren't they?
Yes, yes. My grandparents. I used to spend a lot of time with them because of my parents working all the time, and that was great for me because they would encourage me to sing, and they loved me singing. I was a spoilt brat really, who would they'd sort of stand up and, oh, come on, give us a song, and I used to love it, showing off. But I think that really gave me confidence as well. And my grandmother played piano, my mother played piano, and so it encouraged me to write music and poetry. And I think you have to encourage kids as well. And I know some parents go, "Oh, that's rubbish." I don't think you can ever say that. And I've got four grandchildren, and one of my grandsons is extraordinarily gifted, um, actually creating characters. Wonder where that comes from.
Yes.
And he sits down and he draws these amazing characters. And I just say to him, "You're so amazing." It's like, and he finds it really, oh, not really, this is what I do. But I think you have to encourage kids to, with whatever talent they have, really. And not everyone can be that talented, but for me, it's just really to be like an ox, to keep going and solid and not give up.
I think there's that thing around the arts still, isn't there, where there's maybe it's a parental thing, maybe because there's always that thing of, oh, could it be a career? Could it be a sustainable thing?
Well, yeah, absolutely. Because in fact, my parents used to say to me, "Don't become an actor because your actors are out of work, but definitely stay in the industry." They wanted me to do something like continuity, which was ridiculous because I'm very unobservant visually. I'm very, I listen. But so I got a scholarship into a performing arts school, which I wanted to go to, East 15. And they said, "Oh, well, wow, that's great." But yeah, I do think that it's a strange phenomenon because people do say to kids, "Get a proper job."
Yes.
That was never
I'm
said
still
to
being
me.
told that now.
Yes, exactly. And funnily enough, people make millions from the creative arts in different ways, and it's one of the big exports from this country. Actually, people don't realize that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. It's important.
It is. Of course, we mentioned at the beginning of the show that you do have these series of live shows that feed quite nicely into the book.
Yeah.
For people that aren't kind of fully aware of what would happen, what goes on in the live show? What can you get from the live show that you can't get from the book?
Well, I think I don't know because it could be a spontaneous thing that I suddenly say. I tend to say spontaneous things, and I think the excitement of I've got a lot of clips that I run as well, live clips from back in the day. They probably haven't seen, and maybe a few little secrets which may be in the book or may not be, because I keep thinking of new things actually that happened. And in fact, I saw the original puppeteer the other day. She's 91, Mary Turner, and she's told me a couple of things that I'm going to put in the show that happened, and I'd totally forgotten about. So it's evolving all the time. That's the thing. It's a show changes. It's I think that, the precept is great of that time, but also things come to light, as you said, like the footage. And it's great to see something live, delivered live, isn't it?
It is. It's you can't. It's I often compare it to music, to listening to an album. It's different from going to a gig, isn't it? It's a different
Yeah,
experience.
completely. It's the same sort of thing.
Finishing off, I mean, is there anything that you can recall, like a memorable moment from that period of time, like a fond memory or a funny memory, or something that sticks out to you when you think of that era?
There are so many things. I mean, puppets' heads coming off in the middle of a take, or my dad doing the voice of Robert the Robot with a box on his head in the recording booth was very funny to me, with a hole cut out for his mouth, and I remember going on a Sunday to the recording sessions and looking through the glass window and seeing everyone sitting round the table delivering their lines. And that was really brilliant. And there are lots of great stories from that time, very funny incidents, but you'll have to buy the book, you see.
This is it. Well, thank you so much for joining me, Dee. It was really a pleasure.
Thank you. It has been a pleasure. Thank you, Ryan.
That's right. And of course, the link will be in the description below for anybody that wants to pre-order the book and grab yourself a ticket for the live show. As we said,
yes, the dates are on there. Yeah, the dates are on my website.
Absolutely.
Thank you.